guys! In today's video, we are going to be going through the 8 books that I read in May. I have this little bookmark tracker that has both a tracker on one side and then a bookshelf on the other side that you can color in. This I got on Etsy from British Book Art. This is really what's been keeping me going. It's so cute. You can color in each square of like what day that you read, and then I've been putting stars in the days that I finished a book. So you can kind of like see the pattern of like during school and then summer when I have more time. And then the back has a little bookshelf, and then I've been coloring in the books based on the main color of the book itself. And so I have like, I started May with ACOTAR, so that's like the red one right there, and then the rest of them you can see like from the month of May. It's so fun, and I love this little tracker, so I wanted to do a little shout out for this. Starting off with the month of May, we started with ACOTAR, which I don't have physically because I read my roommate's copy. A Court of Thorns and Roses is the first book that I read in the month of May by Sarah J. Maas. We have a 19-year-old girl named Feyre who ends up killing a wolf, and it turns out that it's not what it seems, and she ends up getting taken away to this magical land that she has only heard about through different like fairy tales and stories and like legends. She's going to one of the areas of a high fae or like fairy, like magical being, like a court, and she ends up going through being at first dragged against her will to this place, but ending up learning more about who the people are and the history of why it is the way it is. It has like Beauty and the Beast themes. That's one of the like fairy tales that it's taken off of. It was not my favorite, and I ended up giving it a 3.25 out of 5. I don't know, I'm just not a big fan of the 18-year-old girl, or 19 in her case, and then the like 800-year-old man. I don't know. It's like the romantasy, like fantasy romance, and maybe that's just not the genre for me. So that was not my favorite. I didn't like that, even though I knew that was the theme going in, and I know it only gets more as like the series goes on, so who knows if I'm gonna read that. And I also know that like the first book is not the best one, like you gotta keep reading for it to amp up, and it definitely like left off in terms of now there can be more setup for politics and characters and different things like that. So I ended up giving that a 3.25 out of 5. Not my favorite. The next book that I read was The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang, and I really enjoyed this book. Our plot centers around Rin, who is our main character, and she's a war orphan from one of the Poppy Wars, and she is taken in by this family who's not very nice to her. She ends up taking this test called the Kuju. She ends up going to this fancy military academy where military like generals and people are trained to become the leaders of war. At the academy, there's different subjects. Well, she ends up leaning towards something that is not favored by all. It's a very like heavy politics book that delves into a lot of like military fantasy culture with gods and religion. It has themes from like Chinese history. It deals with what it's like to be raised and live in a place that is so heavily controlled by drugs like opium and poppy, what that means for the people who are there. You go through the history of this area. So you have the Nakata Empire and then the Mugen Federation, who are butting heads with each other. You get some fun character interactions. Many of the characters are very morally gray, and especially in this time of right before war. We have Kitai, who's one of my favorite characters, who's like the funny, like goofy, sarcastic friend of Rin, and I love him, and he gives a nice like breath of fresh air to the story. I really enjoyed it. They have a training arc that is similar to a scene from Demon Slayer. If you know, you know. It involves a mountain, and I was heavily reminded of it, which made me like it even more. So, and I ended up giving The Poppy War a 4.75 out of 5. And I'm really excited to read the rest of the series because I'm assuming it only goes up from here. The next book we read, we have Betting on You by Lynn Painter, which is a YA romance book about these two seniors in high school who keep running into each other. And like a couple of years ago until the current time, they keep running into each other and they're sort of like slight rivals at the beginning. They both don't like each other and they butt heads a lot. They end up working together, getting to know each other and learning about their like pasts and can relate because they're children of divorced parents and one of the parent is getting into another relationship and kind of how that family dynamic is changing and what that means for Bailey's identity and Charlie's identity and how they are learning and growing as people, and they're learning that they can relate to more than they thought they could. It's cute. This, similar to Better Than the Movies, also by Lynn Painter. I realized that maybe it's just with YA. I don't know. I'm 20 and maybe it's because I haven't been in high school for a little bit, but the way that she writes high school girls specifically, they're so annoying. They're like insufferable. Also, some of the like slang that's used, maybe I'm just not from Nebraska. I don't know. But so some of it was like a little unrealistic and a little like, why are we whining so much? There's so much whining. Just from the girl, just in like specific places. The like banter and the like friendships that develop totally make up for it. And I really enjoyed the other book. I really enjoyed the main male character, Charlie. He's so cute and he's so fun. I recommend this. It's just a cute YA little romance book. So I ended up giving Betting on You 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I read The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This book is so cute. It's like a cozy little fantasy, magical kids, two different very contrasting worlds of the strict workforce versus this magical island where anything's possible and people are nice to you and you can have friends and these children can be more accepted for who they are as magical beings. We have our main character named Linus, who is a caseworker at the department in charge of magical youth. He lives alone, he has a cat, goes to work every day, comes home, has an annoying neighbor. It rains every single day. I imagine it's probably like in grayscale, like there's probably no color. There probably is color, but like dark, dreary. He ends up getting this mission to go check out this house that's full of these magical youth. As a caseworker, he goes to visit different like homes of children who are put down by the system that's in place. He makes sure that everything's good and he ends up going to this island. He meets the master of the orphanage, Arthur Parnassus, who is also just not what he seems at first glance. And it's a lot about realizing that even though the way people might be perceived on the outside or the stereotypes that you might view just by looking at someone doesn't mean that they're true, and that there's a lot more to the person than at what you see at first glance. And it's a very beautiful story, and you just get the development of Linus realizing that maybe there's some more hope in the world than he first thought. Maybe there can be some fun color in his life. So I ended up giving The House in the Cerulean Sea 5 out of 5 stars. Highly recommend. Highly recommend. A Study in Drowning by Ava Reid. It was fine. There's like 3 characters. It has to do with fairy tales and folk sort of fantasy-esque of this girl who is at this architecture college who ends up getting picked to design plans for this famous author's house after he died. It has a lot to do with like themes of the sea and drowning, and it's like a dark fairy tale-esque book that has a romance in it that's not a lot of the book, but I did like the main male character, Preston. Didn't really care for the main girl. didn't really care for anything else about this book. I think this is for some people, but the way this is written, not for me. 2.5 out of 5. The next book I read was Light from Uncommon Stars by Rika Aoki. I love this book. Everybody should read it. Light from Uncommon Stars is about these different characters who live in LA. And we have Shizuka Satomi, this violin teacher, who has been teaching these prodigy violin players, and she is called the Queen of Hell. She's dealing with souls for success. We have Katrina, who is a violin player who is trans and goes through a whole journey of identity with the hatred of others getting pushed upon her, but learning to grow and find people who will care about you and who will make you realize that there's more to life than just the people who will hate on you, and that you have something to give as a person. And then we have Lon, who is it says on the back, retired starship captain. She is on Earth and she owns a donut shop. It's fantasy, sci-fi. The amount of fantasy and sci-fi is very little. So if you're expecting like a lot of fantasy and sci-fi, you're not gonna get it. There's a lot of like writing about music and the feelings that you can feel through good music, specifically violin playing. It will make you crave donuts and love the characters, even if some of them are stubborn at some times. But you end up loving everybody and like just caring about these people. You get a lot in their lives. It goes through a whole year. You go through perspectives. Every half page is like another perspective, which did make it seem like a little rushed and like you didn't have time to fully delve into every single character, which would have been great to like see everything about them. It was more choppy because the perspectives switched so often. I think everybody should read this, and I gave it a 4.25 out of 5. Second to last book that I read was Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. Similar to Betting on You, same author, same genre, YA romance about two seniors in high school. We have Liz and Wes, who are neighbors. They kind of have a rivalry going on over this parking spot in front of their houses. Liz, when she was younger, her mom passed away. When she was alive, they watched rom-coms together, like all the time. Like rom-coms were her mom's favorite. And so Liz continues to watch rom-coms. She very much thinks that everything needs to play out like it happens in the movies. She like picks the soundtrack to her day, and she's like, this is how this is supposed to happen, and like this song is gonna be playing, and then he's gonna walk in, and then he's gonna realize that he's in love with me. The level of delusion it's up there. We have Michael, who was neighbors with both of them when they were little, and then he moved away, and then he moves back. And get this, Liz has had a crush on him for just about forever. Classic move. She kind of makes a plan with Wes to see how she can get Michael's attention, see how things can go from there. And then she realizes that maybe some things weren't the way that she originally thought. And so there's some character growth, there's some fun dynamics, there's some banter, some conversation. I enjoyed that part of the book. I loved Wes. He's like the fun, friendly, goofy neighbor, you know, that kind of boy. And he's so cute, and it's so cute. And I love Wes. I think everybody loves Wes, and they should. You should read this book just for Wes, not for Liz, because our hair may be the same color, but man, do I hate her. Hate is a strong word. She was not my favorite. I dislike her. I understand the reasoning why she thinks some of the ways that she thinks, and like why she has such expectations and things like that. I understand. Just the way she acted was not my favorite. But I ended up giving it a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I highly recommend it. And then the last book I read, Foundry Side by Robert Jackson Bennett. This centers around Sanchia, who is a thief, and it is a fantasy book that has different heists in it. Our first heist is Sanchia stealing a magical artifact that nobody knows what it is, but it's valuable. She kind of learns more about what this artifact is and the power that it holds for someone like her. The magic system in this book revolves around scribed devices, scrivings, which is etchings that are made into something, anything, like a machine type of thing, like an object. And it can tell the object to do something that it originally wouldn't be able to do. If I hold this, right, it has gravity, but if it's scribed to convince the object that it's actually going up, like gravity is actually up, or it weighs 0.1% of what it normally weighs, like stuff like that. That's kind of how the magic system works. The first half, you're really only getting like 2-3 characters, so it's more of a character study. But as you go on, you get more characters. The plot is building up. More people want to kill everybody out. There's different merchant houses. One's trying to rise to the top, but some people won't let it because, I don't know. It's a whole like political mess. But it's really interesting once you get into it, once you get to the second plot where there's more heists, there's more mysteries to unravel, histories of magic to discover, but you get really complex characters and complex magical history, and I'm really excited to read the next couple, because I'm sure they only go up from here. I ended up giving Foundryside a 4.25 out of 5 stars. These are all of the books that I read in May. Thank you for watching. I hope you've gotten some good recommendations, or if you've read these books, let me know. I would love to hear your thoughts. Definitely check out some of the higher rated ones that I recommended. They are very good. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Again, let me know if you've read these books or what you think. I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys!